Hey there, CUT family. I'm really excited about today's Sunday Sermon Rewind. We've been having a fantastic year. I'm declaring today that this is going to be the last rewind of 2024. But what has been so amazing this has been a year of really, really amazing marked growth. These Sunday Sermon Rewinds are designed for the CUT Collective, the online spiritual community for Christ Universal Temple. And so what we do each and every week is we take the lesson sermon and then just pull it apart, unpack it. I get the minister in and we begin to explore and unfold and really just have a deeper level of understanding. And so I'm really excited about today because we are, wrapping out the year. I'm a fan of the end of the year. All of the things that come up with the end of the year where there's, I enjoy Christmas. I enjoy Thanksgiving, all of the holidays. I love them all. But I also like the spirit of shift and transformation. And so I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today because what I think that Reverend Gaylon McDowell is going to be with us today. He gave the lesson sermon on December 8th, 2024. And so what I'm excited about today is that these last couple of lessons have been really, I think, just important for the preparation for your transformation. And so there's some powerful questions that he's asking. And so I'm excited to pull him in and talk about it. I want to make sure I don't have any other housekeeping before I bring him in. Oh, okay. So here's a couple of things before I bring in Rev. So first is that these lessons have been made available to you in our private Facebook group and on the CUT website and on YouTube, right? And so what we're going to do for this year, so in case you found these, at any given point in the year, we're going to podcast them all together so that you can enjoy the rewinds and especially the lessons that hit you the hardest. You can absolutely continue to allow them to unfold in your soul, because that's the thing about spiritual growth, is that it's not like listening to some music. It's not like listening to a comedian where you get the joke one time. That you want to listen to these lessons repeatedly and to allow you to, so that you can get them at deeper levels. All right. So without further ado, I want to make sure before I bring Rev again, that if you have questions, because this is live right now, if you have questions and you're with us live, you can put those in the comments, whether you're tuning in from YouTube or from Facebook. You can put those in the comments and we will be sure to fold those into the conversation. All right. So here you come, Rev. I know I've been threatening to bring you in into the scene.
Hey there.
Good afternoon. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm lovely. I'm in my favorite season.
All right. It's a little bit different favorite season in Chicago, but
it is. I got a sweater on for pretend, but because it's nice to wear winter clothes. But I know y'all feeling it over there.
It'll be really cold tomorrow morning. Wind chill factor will be below zero.
So that wind chill factor, my friends who may not be from the Midwest, is essentially what it really feels like.
Yes.
It's like that once that wind hits that lake, it sends another chill across the space.
Yeah, anybody that's on Lake Michigan, on the bottom of Lake Michigan, where all that air comes down, they know what it means.
Yeah.
Wind comes in. Yeah.
I grew up on Lake Erie, so I know about that. I know about that wind chill factor.
Yeah.
It's a good thing though. So I'm just sending out waves of warmth and comfort to y'all. And there's some people who enjoy really, really cold weather like that. So I hope you're having a blast. If that's your thing, go outside and enjoy it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have my big coat on.
Very cool. So I'm going to dive into the lesson. But before, I just wanted to just plug a couple of things, because at the end, we'll talk some more about this. But at Christ Universal Temple right now, everything is about your soul transformation. And there's some specific events coming up that I want to make sure that we talk just a little bit about. So the first that's coming, there's the Christmas concert. You got to do that. Music just feeds the soul. What the Christmas concert is, which day? Do you know?
That's December 22nd.
Okay. So the 22nd is the Christmas concert. And then Burning Bowl is coming up on January 3rd.
Yes.
So what's Burning Bowl?
Burning Bowl is our annual service where we figuratively and literally burn up that which we don't desire to carry forth into the new year. And it's also our way of planning with God, writing a letter to God about what it is that we are seeking to express or manifest in the new year. So it's high energy, it's reflective, it's music, it's great sermon, it's prayer, a lot of praise. It's probably one of the things we're most well known for. So if obviously if you're in person, local, we would love to have you in person. If you can't, join us online for a life transformative event. Friday, January 3rd, 7 p.m. Central Time.
So I will be in Chicago, bringing hopefully a wave of warmth for January 3rd.
I'll make sure I'll put you on the platform. So on that day, just to make sure you bring the warmth with you.
Yes, I'll be in the house, but I want to make sure that if you are joining virtually, that we prepare you for that experience. So I'll probably jump on and do another video, but the exercise works no matter where you are. And so this amazing thing of release. We'll be flipping into the new year. You don't want to take in baggage. You don't want to take in old thoughts, old habits, old patterns of belief that have created the experiences you're ready to let go of. So this is a chance to let them all go.
Well, I do want to say this. I am going to prep Burning Bowl on December 29th because I'm teaching radical forgiveness, which is going to be a prep to prepare people for the Burning Bowl experience. So as you write down what you don't want to have in your life anymore and burn up, part of it is going to be to set up that process by talking about radical forgiveness. So when you walk in, you already know, okay, I got some stuff that I've been holding on to that I need to release. So that'll be a part of trying to do something a little bit differently than in the past, to where we're really prepping the congregation for the Burning Bowl. So it's the let go before you let go.
Yeah, you got to be ready. Like I know that I've had a lot of different Burning Bowl experiences. I've been doing this since I was in my early 20s, not too long ago. I shouldn't say so long.
Absolutely.
But 3-4 years ago, you know what I mean? Just
You're muted. I can't hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Am I back?
I can hear you, but yeah, now you're back.
Okay. Yeah. I would sit in the ceremony sometime and ideas would come up like, oh, I want to let that go too. So, preparation is key. You get a chance to really sit with yourself and think about what you want to let go of. Some thoughtful time. This is one of the reasons I enjoy this. I enjoy Christmas and giving, and I enjoy celebrating the birth of the Christ in me. That's one of my faves. But I also like this idea of a collective consciousness of release. That there's a lot of people that are contemplating life right now. So I take advantage of that. Burning Bowl is a great opportunity to take advantage of just fruitful contemplation of your experience, and then really thinking about, before I can be something new, I have to release something. So this lesson series, The Gifts of the Spirit, has been really powerful. And what your lesson this week, last week was about the gift of attention. This week is about the gift of commitment. And so some of you know that last week I said was going to be the last week, and then he plugged the gift of commitment. And I'm going to ignore your plug of the gift of forgiveness. I'm not
radical forgiveness. I'm not. Look, it's going to stand on its own, so I'm all good.
We may have to come back in 2020, 2025 and talk more about that one. But today, the gift of commitment. Tell me what you gave a definition. I'm not sure if I pulled this clip, but how do you define commitment?
Okay, now I need to get to my really good definition, which I wasn't. I guess I should have been prepared for that. Well, when it's all said and done, commitment to me is, it's a promise you make to yourself or others about doing what you say you're going to do, either now or in the future. So for me, commitment is about being your word.
Yeah,
being your word in integrity.
Yeah. It's so interesting how quickly we can fall out of integrity with our word. And just by, really just not following through, lots of different reasons. And I think that you gave some key insights into, when you understand what commitment is, it may help you understand why you may have not been committed to something before. It's like, oh, I didn't understand really what I was involved in. Right. This first clip I pulled, it might have a definition in. Let's see. It might. It's about a better life.
Okay.
Your better life will be found in your commitment to letting the light of God in you shine, not in the continuous rehearsal of your painful stories. They've been rehearsing the negative story, the painful past, the issues, the drama. And by rehearsing the painful past, rehearsing those painful stories, you are reinforcing them in your subconscious mind. And I'm saying, if you want to be free, you have to stop rehearsing those painful stories.
So I told you all that these clips I pull, I have you in my heart and my mind, but sometimes it'll be one that's just all about me. And I think that this part is something that it took me some time to break through, and I still work with it. This idea of the rehearsing the painful stories, essentially keeping them in your creative factory because you keep telling them to yourself, so you keep experiencing things like them. What do you tell me how your commitment can help you break this pattern?
Well, I think, later on, obviously, I don't know what clips you pulled because, it's surprise. But part of it is to reinforce your why. Like, okay, you want a different life. Now, what are you going to focus on? This piggybacks off of the gift of attention sermon. Where are you going to put your attention? Because if you're rehearsing your painful stories, one of the things that we tell people is where your attention goes, your power flows. So as you're rehearsing, going over and over and over your painful past, your painful stories, you're reinforcing it in your consciousness and your subconscious mind, to be more specific. And this is what you're telling God as universal law you want more of. Why? Because it has all of your attention. You're thinking about it, you're feeling it, you're believing it, you're talking about it, you're having biological responses to it. I mean, heart rate goes up, adrenaline, adrenal glands, all type of stuff is happening to the body. You're telling the universe, I want more of this, because it has us completely immersed in it. So we have to break the pattern. If we take metaphysics out of it and just start talking about this from a pure medical point of view, people who do study the brain sciences will tell you that the neural pathways are created by things that we continually go over and over again in our minds. So those neural pathways create the easier way to think, feel, and behave because they're stronger versus things that we don't give our attention to, that we're not focused on, that we're not thinking about, that we're not feeling, that have thinner neural pathways. So what we have to do is disrupt and replace. Now, in New Thought, in metaphysics, we would call that denial and affirmation. But it's the same thing. You have to disrupt it. When I was a kid, my mom used to say, cancel, cancel, order, order. When something she didn't like, cancel, 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 order, order. That was her way of the disruption, to disrupt what was going on in her mind so she could replace it with something else. And I used to laugh at it as a kid, but now I get what she was trying to do. Her method to stop herself from foolish thinking.
Yeah.
That she didn't want showing up in her life.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we were both just kind of talking about how productivity, like how do we feel about our productivity that day? And she was mentioning a rut that she was in. And I think that there was a part of it that was like, I can recognize I'm in this rut. And I think there was some, like, I recognize this is where I am. So one thing is to know that you're in a space where you're uncomfortable, where you're not, living your best life, where you're, have a depressed state of mind. It's another thing to then say, I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to let that go and then choose something differently. And that, I know that we can be very self-aware but maybe not self-corrective. Maybe not, we don't get ourselves into alignment. So I appreciated this lesson for the very practical nature that you need to contemplate yourself. And then here are some things you can do.
Yes.
Practical Christianity is my jam. I'm glad I'm in this space, because it's one, and knowing yourself used to be a thing, right? Oh, I was so unaware of myself. Well, now you know. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what the next magical clip is going to be about. Oh, I know this one is about. This is about again, another clip pulled that was more about me maybe than about you guys. Hope you enjoy it.
Let's look at a few factors and see what we can learn from them. It is necessary to understand what you're truly committed to. It is easier to be lazy and procrastinate because laziness is often the path of least resistance. It's easier to do nothing and hope that things turn out okay, if we're honest. Also, many people have disempowering core beliefs from their childhood or painful experiences that determine how they see life, see themselves, see others, and what is possible for them. Therefore, they do things with full commitment that does not help their lives, because their subconscious minds are running a negative pattern on automatic.
Talk to me about that negative pattern on automatic.
Well, a negative pattern would be something that is not for your highest good, for not for your well-being, something that is destructive. It won't help you express more good in your life. So sometimes when we're in the space of resignation, depression, fear, anxiety, etc., the pattern is just running its on automatic, in a sense that we're just thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it over and over again. And it seems like, it's developed such a groove that it's hard to get out of that pattern. That's why you have to have a hard disrupt, because the path of least resistance is, okay, if this is what's been happening, it takes energy and effort to stop this from happening and to create a new pattern. That's why it's easy to get stuck when you get stuck. All right. This, if you ever been on the side of a road, and you say, for instance, let's talk about Chicago winters. You grew up in Cleveland, so you understand this. There have been times where I can remember, at a previous place, live in the Chicago alleys, where it's an alley, homes on both sides, garages. You pull out of the alley. Now, when it's snowing, that's a whole different conversation. So I can remember one time I needed to get to work, but my neighbor across the alley from me was stuck. Now, we were out there shoveling and snow blowing and whatever, but he got stuck where one of our neighbors didn't get to the alley to do their part of maintaining the alley properly. We'll just leave it at that. So I couldn't get to work because the other direction was the same way. So what did we have to do? I got out of my car. Several other people got out. And what we did was we pushed. His car was just driving, spinning the wheels. As we pushed his car down and through the alley, it created the groove for me and anybody else to drive and get out of the alley. But it took the effort of about 4 men to push that car through that snow. All right. Shovel push until we were able to get past it and do what we needed to be able to do. Now it's the same thing with us. We're going to be stuck somewhere, and now we're like, okay, I want to change. I just heard Reverend Sheree talk about what you can have in your life. And then you're like, why is nothing happening? Because you're still like that car stuck in the snow. Now you're putting effort, but you don't realize that because you're so stuck that it takes extra commitment extra energy, extra focus to push yourself out of the ditch or the snow that you're in. It sometimes just requires more effort, and so people end up giving up. So what I'm saying to people is the negative pattern is like that. And if you want to push yourself out of the negative pattern, you have to be that much more committed to changing your life. I'm a big believer. This is why one of the friends of our ministry, and she has to be over 100 years old now, I believe, the Reverend Catherine Ponder. She would write the dynamic laws of healing, the dynamic laws of prosperity, the dynamic laws of prayer. Why dynamic? She says in her book, it's used because she was using the analogy of dynamite. Sometimes you got to explode out. Yeah. You can't like, oh, okay, I'm just going to put a little bit of energy. No, you have to explode out. What type of level of radical change do you need to do to change things? This is why being a part of a community helps. When you're around people, and obviously digital, if you can't be in person, because obviously we have a lot of digital people who watch us, but being in a community where the energy is high, where people are praying and praising and worshiping and singing and sermon, the energy helps you get out of the rut that you've been in, because being a part of that community is a part of the commitment and energy that's necessary to push yourself out of what you've been dealing with. So if you want to stop the negative patterns from repeating themselves, what I'm saying is you have to get immersed in what it is that you're seeking to do as much as you possibly can. I'm not going to let you go, as Jacob told God in the wilderness, until you bless me. What extra energy did you have to put to a thing at this point?
Yeah. And I think that that's the part that can be intimidating. But like you talk about in the sermon about your why, right? So for you in the alley with people who didn't shovel their part of the snow, your why is like, why do I have to put forth this extra effort? Because I have a destination to get to, right? And I think that sometimes not getting clear about what your why is can be the reason that you are just spinning your wheels. And I want to encourage you. Like I said, this is one of the things I enjoy about this time is I can reflect on my year and say, okay, let me be honest. I didn't do some of the things that I said that I was going to do. And so I can acknowledge that, deal with that, and understand how can I have a deeper commitment? How could I really get out of that groove, out of that rut? And so this deep, strong commitment, just to know that it's going to take you a little extra to come out of not being in motion to getting in motion, I think is really helpful to hear, so that you don't feel like a failure because a little effort didn't move the needle for you yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think this clip kind of goes in alignment with what we're talking about, just strengthening your commitment. Let's see.
This is the power of commitment. It is so strong that when it is fortified in you, it is hard for anyone or anything to distract you. Even when you are taking on a pattern and a commitment that is not for your well-being. Because I be lying. I be lying all the time. If commitment is that strong, imagine how much it can help you live a healthy, happy, and prosperous life when it is focused on God's vision in you and not the painful past or who you think you must show up as in life. And
So I'll be lying was a funny story.
Yeah. I'm glad you liked it. People were laughing in service and after service about the I be lying guy, but it's absolute truth.
Yeah, y'all got to go back and listen to that one. Listen, December 8th, 2024, Christ Universal Temple. But we can get caught up. What you're talking about is the power of your commitment and what are you committed to? Very much, I think, in alignment with what we've been talking about. But what I thought was so powerful about the story that you told is that in the face of another point of view, you can be so committed to the lens you're looking through that you can't even penetrate it and see yourself through, see something different for yourself. And so again, like I said, I pull clips that I think will be beneficial to people. I know I'm not the only one, but do know that it is me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer too. I was literally having a conversation yesterday, and I was hearing myself as they're pushing me, like, you really should explore this business. Like, this is such, you keep talking about it. And I was just like, no. And I kept all this resistance, and I said, stop. Right? Because all I was saying was, I'll be lying all the time. Like, I was just committed to my perspective, right?
Yeah.
And to my limited story, that they're trying to show me something else. And whether I say yes or no to that idea, I was absolutely saying no to another point of view, to just even having another point of view. And so that is, just these keys as we begin to, like I said, I'm here to transform, because why not? Why not have a new year, new me? Like, why not?
Yeah. And you have to be mindful of it, because, something as simple as, I'm going to do this versus that. And then you don't do it. And then you get that feeling of, I let myself down, or I didn't follow through again. And the key emphasis is again. And the moment you tell yourself that I didn't follow through again, and then I didn't do it again, then you learn not to trust yourself. And that's when you really are in dangerous space when it comes to achieving goals, because the only person you have to convince about this truth is yourself.
That let myself down again. I know somebody needed to hear that it is forgiving yourself. Radical forgiveness will be a big experience, I think, for you. But to get that, you are going to keep repeating the same pattern as long as you're thinking the way that you think. It's almost like, oh, I get it. I get why my health isn't better. It's because my habits and my patterns for self-care I'm committed to the way that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have the body experience that I'm having. I'm going to have the mental experience that I'm having. And reaching for something new, wanting something different, is going to require something new of me. And we're built for it. Like, we're built. Like, you think somebody sent me this amazing video of a butterfly, a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. It was like when people ask you, what are you doing? And you say, not much. And it's this whole transformation thing that's happening, that there is a complete shift in terms of like identity that takes its time. It begins to be it's a step-by-step process. So I can, I think that might be my metaphor for this year. It's really kind of thinking about the chrysalis, the caterpillar into the chrysalis, into the butterfly. And, I invite y'all into this transformation. Let's do it together.
Yeah, I preached about that early this year, I believe, where I said that the caterpillar, the butterfly doesn't live in the same world as the caterpillar. But anyway, something like that. I'm trying to remember. The caterpillar's life is on the limitation of the leaf. The butterfly is not limited to the leaf. And so, but we can't see what's really possible for us from the caterpillar perspective. It's only after the transformation that we really see, like, oh, this is a whole new world.
Yeah. So you said a powerful word earlier, just trust, right? Trusting yourself. But as you continue to grow spiritually, you trust more in the power and presence of God. So it's that on the other side of this transformation is going to be my liberation. It's going to be a freedom I've never known. It's going to be good, like good in some form I have never experienced good before.
Yes.
Let me see, where am I? Okay, let's see what this clip is going to be. I think it's about your painful stories, but listen.
Okay.
Let's see.
And I'm saying, if you want to be free, you have to stop rehearsing those painful stories.
Oh, I think I've heard this one.
When you commit to your own divine nature as a child of God, you will discover that God's wisdom in you has a higher calling for you. But you don't see it until you put the story down. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 3 said it this way: commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established.
There were so many good things in that clip. idea. You said commit your way to the Lord, but before that, it was the I'm looking at my note. Before that, you talked about essentially the same thing along this caterpillar myth, right? The metaphor that there is a good beyond what you can see. Why is it that we can't see that good? Like when you're in the middle of what you're going through, the better question is, how can you get a glimpse of it so that you can be motivated even to reach for that next thing that that unknown better?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, first, you have to pay attention, because I believe we're already getting glimpses. It's not how, it's are you paying attention? As Neil Donald Walsh wrote, God is always communicating, but are you listening? So we missed a little division. We missed the inner hearing. We missed the intuitive feeling, something that is telling us there's something higher that, we teach in our ministry. The desire is God knocking at the door of your soul with what is possible for you. So the question comes into play is, why don't we see it? Is because our minds are focused on other stuff. I'm trying to remember the Course in Miracles quote when it was like, it's a distraction quote, but I can't remember it right now. I want to Google it on my phone, but it's so good. I want to remember it, but I don't see because I'm distracted. And, I can never forget when, Reverend Coleman said many, many years ago, why is it that people don't, see Jesus, and Jesus is, I guess you would say ascended consciousness. And she said, your eyes aren't pure enough. Exact words. Your eyes aren't pure enough. She's like, in other words, you're not at the level to be able to see it. And so why don't we see the good that's possible for us? Because we're distracted. We're not paying attention. We're not present. Because if our minds are in our painful past, our stories, or if our minds are in the worry of the potential future, where isn't our mind? In the now.
Yep.
Eckhart Tolle started a whole movement on the power of now, that you can only find your truth and your power, your vision in the now. Because we're distracted, and we're now more distracted than ever, because of not because of lifestyle. We don't have a saber-toothed tiger chasing us, but we have notifications, computers, phones, tablets, this, that, and other. Information overload, Facebook, Instagram, all these things are great. They're all things to help humanity, but they also are things that end up pulling our attention from just being by ourselves quietly. And sometimes when I'm home, especially if my wife is gone, I might be up for hours before I ever turn the TV on. Why? I just want to be quiet with my own mind. Now, for some people, that's the scariest thing that they can imagine. I understand, because they've been through stuff. And when you have an unregulated mind, that's basically like asking somebody to walk through Jurassic Park. I get it. Okay. But if you're unwilling to take the hero's journey in your own soul, then you never get to the other side, which is where you find your peace. So, unfortunately, Reverend Coleman was right when she wrote, it works if you work it.
If you work it. It's going to require some faith. And I think that one of the things, my spiritual mother would say, Reverend Della, she talked a lot about proof of the truth. That for her, it is, she lived by the principle. She walked her talk. But one of the things that she would share with us is that it wasn't just this blind, it was one of understanding faith, but also recognizing that she was proving the truth all the time. You got to be able to bear witness to when you're proving the truth, so that you can be willing to take that leap into a higher height. The one thing that you talked about, the painful past, letting go of your painful past. And I kept thinking, you also got to let go of your glory days. Like you got to let go of when everything was going well, especially if you've been on the planet for some time, that you may think that your usefulness has dissipated, that the opportunities for new glories is, like, oh, I did that back in my other days. And I just want to encourage you that if you're drawing breath, there's still purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There is still something for you to bring into expression, and you got to get committed to do that. There's still a transformation in play.
Yeah, well, I think this is what happens with athletes, where they get stuck in the playing days and they don't transition out of life. So the athletes that end up being happy post career, the athletic career, are those who find a way to become excellent in something else. So, I was just paying attention the other day, like, how often do I see Shaq on TV? Like, Shaq is selling everything. Icy hot pizza and insurance and whatever. He's on Inside the NBA on TNT. Every time I look up, Shaq is selling something, because he can't be the 7'1", 360-pound dominant center in the NBA. What can he be now? So now he's an exceptionally successful businessman. If you do some background, you'll discover he has his hands in so many businesses. He owns so much stuff that people don't even know. He became something successful. I'm gonna give another example. When we were, a few years ago, when we were in our 20s, Snoop Dogg was an extreme gangster rapper. Now he's like the favorite uncle that everybody loves to see. Like,
poster child for the Olympics.
He's doing the Olympics. He's doing cookbook stuff on TV. Like, this is how I cook this. He has commercials and endorsements and other type of stuff. And this is the guy that was rapping Gin and Juice, and Murder Was the Case. And now he's shifted from, I'm not saying he still doesn't rap and perform, but is that really where he makes his money now? No. He shifted. You have to figure out where can I show up as excellence now? Okay, so the reason why I focus so much on the painful past versus all the past is, in my sermon, was I was trying to get people to get past their stuck points. And really it's acknowledging your past, acknowledging and accepting it. But we'll get to that when we deal with the radical forgiveness sermon. You can't teach it all in one lesson. Some of it is accepting all of it, good, bad, or indifferent, so you can move on. But I knew that if I put that in that sermon and didn't have time to properly undress that, you can leave people in a situation you don't want to leave them in. It's like I used to always tell my dad, I used to tell my father, you know how to unpack suitcases, but you don't know how to put the clothes back in properly. Here's my way. I love my father. He thinks out loud. I call that thinking out loud, like stuff to come up in your mind. You just say it. Right. So I call that thinking out loud. And so I would tell him, like, man, you just can't think out loud when you're dealing with people. He's like, because he'll say something, totally forget about it. Now he was like Godzilla. He didn't wag his tail,
the whole thing,
all the buildings behind him, and he's moving on with his life. I'm like, you just can't think out loud. So I didn't want to open something that I couldn't properly close.
Right. So this is definitely a safe space to grow. And I think these, when you talk about, if you get quiet, for some people, it's like the thoughts that rush in are just too overwhelming. So you do need, they choose a distraction. I put on the news, I put on a television show, I listen to the radio, something, because I don't want to just let my thoughts roam around. And so what I want to say, just to that point, before we move into this next thing about, because you got to be able to know that you can control your mind. And so none of this works if you don't grab back the power over your mind. Like, all of this is a grabbing back of the power of your mind. You talked about attention. Now we're talking about commitment. And I would just say to do it in doses. Then, if I cannot spend hours of time just in quiet contemplation, or just quiet, just no external things pushing at me, or if I don't trust that, if I feel like a swirl, right, of thoughts, and I've had that described to me before, it's like I can never meditate, because there's a swarm or swirl that comes, and I know that can be kind of offsetting, kind of put you off your balance. That take a minute. Let that minute become 2 minutes. Let that minute become 10 minutes, and begin to just practice being quiet. Right? Because at some point you practice all of the inputs that you're currently having. Now it's just like, what if I just started taking away some of those inputs? When you're having a dietary thing, if you feel like you're having an allergic reaction to some food, they'll say start taking things away and see how you feel. So it may just be like, take away one of those inputs that you're constantly, kind of focused on. What if you just didn't answer the phone before a certain time? What if you didn't cut on the TV before a certain time? Like just removing an input and then seeing how you feel.
Yeah. And sometimes just going and pamper yourself. Go get a massage. And I realize everybody's not in a financial situation where they can do that, but what can you do? See, what ends up happening is part of commitment is I can do these things. What can you do?
What can you do?
That could be a part of your piece. I was telling, let me just give an example really quickly because I know we got other clips to go through. I was telling, I have on my mom's side, it's just my sister Lisa and I. But on my dad's side, I have a lot of siblings. My dad was married many times, and he was also, a young man, an exceptionally handsome man that women loved. And we'll just leave it at that. He was fruitful and multiplied. So, but one of the, on my baby sister, who he was his third wife. I was telling her about her mother when she was little, before she was born and when she was a baby. And I was like, we're living on Lakeshore Drive. And like, even when it was, we didn't always do stuff that required us to spend money. She was like, hey, we're 4 or 5 blocks from Rainbow Beach, which was a beach it's still a beach in Chicago. She was like, hey, we're going down there. We're going to go to the beach. She had my dad, we're buying everybody's bikes. We're going to ride bikes up and down Lakeshore Drive. I was telling her about, when I was in 6th grade and I was playing football with my buddies and messed up my knee and I was on crutches. She pulled up at my mom's like, hey, I want to take them to the show. I mean, I was out, not even at school, back to school yet. She's like, well, we're going to the show. What that was doing was, okay, what can you do? Okay, everything to require. Okay, we got all these kids over there. Dad, all these kids, and then eventually her one kid. What can we do? And she was just really great at. We're just gonna find fun stuff to go do. And that was one of the things that I think we have to be mindful of. Sometimes you will say, "Well, we can't do this and we can't do that." What can you do?
What can you do?
Okay,
that's puts you on a whole different train of thought.
Right. So yeah, even with one leg and 2 crutches, I can go to the movie theater. Now, even if it wasn't extra money to be spent, we can go to the beach. We can get on our bikes and ride. There's something we can do. So when we twist our minds back and we get a commitment and start asking ourselves the question, what can I do? Yeah. It changes the whole conversation in our minds. What can I do? Okay, well, I can't do this and I can't do. What can I do? Well, I can't exercise the way I used to. What can I do? Yeah. Okay. I can't do an hour on a treadmill. Can I do 10? I can't run. Can I walk? I can't walk fast. Can you walk slow? What can you do? And what ends up happening is if you just keep going back to what can I do, you will build and start to stack wins. And the more you win, the more you will believe in yourself.
Yeah. That's a powerful formula right there for transformation. Absolutely. And that question. So once you begin to ask yourself that question too, you also start to build a new world for yourself, because that will break the groove of being in the same space. It helps you break through your excuses. I'm going to play this clip. I think I have 3 more. Let's see what happens.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
I'm going to say that again. Raise your standards. You don't always get your goals, but you always get your standards. People get their musts. not their shoulds. Your commitment shows. Your current life is a mirror to what you have been committed to. Your past is a mirror to what you were committed to. Your future can only show up as a reflection of what you're committed to now.
One of my favorite clips. You said your current life, I have to type this out. Your current life is a commitment.
It's a reflection.
Your current life is a reflection. Say it again, to what you've been committed to.
Yeah.
Your current life is a reflection to what you've been committed to.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. I don't know if that's exactly, but yeah.
It's for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, this is I think looking at these statements.
A reflection of, that's what I said, a reflection of what you've been committed to. Just my brain was saying, because I know how I
say something ain't right about that.
Yeah.
Ain't right. But this idea, the idea that you can see right now how you are committed.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to do commitment. You're doing it.
Yeah.
You're doing it. Look at your life and see what you're committed to.
Yeah. All you gotta do is look around and like, okay, this is what I've been committed to.
Yeah.
Legitimately. Because here's the thing. Life is a mirror and it reflects back to us our commitment.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I said raise your standards, or I was quoting Tony Robbins. You don't always get your goals. I'm not going to tell people you get always 100% of the goals you desire, but you must get your standards.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so, and you know when you're out of alignment with your standard, you're like, what the heck have I been doing? Because you know you've allowed yourself to be fooled out of your standard. And when you come to yourself, like the prodigal son had to come to himself, like, wait a minute, the slaves, I know the old version say servants, but he in the proper is the slaves at my father's house had better to eat than this pig slop I'm eating or wanting to eat. I mean, he had to come to himself. So all I'm asking people to do with this quote is, what are your shoulds? What are your standards? I mean, your musts, not your shoulds. What are the must happen things in your life? Because what ends up happening is we have a lot of reasons why something should happen.
Right.
But when it must happen, it's a different conversation. All right. And we just got to be mindful of that. And what you're creating for the future is what you're committed to now. So if you're committed to more social media time and TV time than self-development time, you'll be really great at explaining TV shows and TikTok videos and maybe not have so much transformation in your life. Again, I love TikTok too, just like anybody else, and videos. I laugh. I send stuff to my buddies and family members. I get it. I'm speaking to the choir when it comes to myself. What you want to show up has to show up in what you do now. All right. I was listening to our mutual friend, Reverend Michael Beckwith, and he was telling the story about how when he first got his first speaking engagement before he was a minister and all that stuff. He just a quiet guy that got the new thought stuff and was running, just somebody said, we want you to speak. And he says he had this sense of dread, like he was going to cancel it. And then he said he had a sense of presence behind him, like everything is going to be all right. And then he was able to go to the talk and was successful. Many, many years later, maybe a decade or two later, he's in meditation. And in meditation, he sees himself hovering over the younger version of him that was contemplating canceling the speaking engagement. And it dawned on him that he was the one convincing himself. Now, humanly, that makes no sense. But spiritually, there's no time or space in God. So a higher more aware version of himself was convincing himself. And then he felt something behind him supporting him while he was supporting a younger version of himself. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the consciousness and divine mind explanations of how that could possibly work, because I can do it, but that's not the place for this. The point of it is this: he made the commitment, but we don't realize what we can grow into. Like, if you went back and I said, Rev, Sheree, if you can go back and tell the 22-year-old version of you one thing, what would it be that you really wanted her to know? And whatever that is, live it now.
Live it now. Listen, that flows into this next clip, because you're talking about living.
Okay.
No, you're talking about living the commitment. I'm going to play this one, and we're going to come back to talk about more about living the commitment.
Once you make a commitment, once you find your why in life, then comes the challenging part. You must live it every day, even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Commitment doesn't care about your feelings. Commitment doesn't care about your feelings. This is why when people are working with people who have alcohol, substance abuse issues, they have to help people get past their feelings into their commitment. Because you might feel like taking the drink. Don't miss it. You might feel like getting high. But what does that have to do with your commitment? Commitment doesn't care about your feelings. Commitment isn't interested in your story. Commitment just wants to know if you will keep your word to yourself and others.
So there's this powerful thing. I see some comments in the chat about being committed to food and transforming eating habits for health. Thank you for sharing that, Cheryl. That this is an opportunity for us to look at those spaces, be honest with ourselves. Like, this isn't to beat yourself up about it. It's to be honest, to say, oh, wait a minute. I am absolutely focused on something that does not serve my highest good. Right? These habits do not produce the body I want. They don't produce the life I want. And I'm willing to transform. And you used a couple of words when you're talking about addictions, right? And if an addiction is this feeling of being out of control with an impulse, that eating can be an addiction. Literally negative thinking can be an addiction. We got to shake it. And so I definitely appreciated I'm in the walk my talk phase of life, that I believe I have. I've been playing with that. And my spiritual mother's been coming into my ear a lot lately, because her life was proof of the truth. She walked her talk. And so if you were to look at my life, can you see the truth? Can you see me proving the truth? And I want that to be an overwhelming yes, as I look at my own life, right? I'm looking at it like sometimes walk your talk. Sometimes I want 100% total commitment. And that's what I'm reaching for. If I'm at the caterpillar phase, I want to be off the leaf in the butterfly phase of mine. That's where I am right now.
Understood. Definitely.
Yes. I think this last clip, living your commitment. This last clip, we have something in common. I don't know if I pulled this part, but one of the things I did when I was younger, that if I was my mama, I would have got a spanking for. I think I would have spanked. I deserved a spanking for this. I didn't get one. But my mother had Richard Pryor's That End Is Crazy on 8-track.
Yeah, my dad had that album. Yeah.
She had the 8-track on, and I discovered that if I covered up the little groove on it, I could record things on the 8-track. So if I wanted to record something off the radio or whatever, I could use the 8-track to do that, right? And I did. I recorded some songs off the radio all over her Richard Pryor. I didn't get in trouble, but I should have got in trouble for that. I should have totally got in trouble for that. But there's a story you tell about Richard Pryor and Jim Brown. I think I pulled some of this. Let me play it. If I didn't pull the exact clip, we'll talk a little bit about it afterwards.
All right.
You know, when I was a kid, you know, I used to sneak and listen to my mama's Richard Pryor album. Yeah, I did it. I mean, come on now. I'm not the only one. Let's be real now. And when she would have the VHS, I would sneak and put the VHS in and watch it. And I remember as a kid, Richard Pryor having this story about when he was dealing with his substance abuse, and his friend, the NFL legend and black icon Jim Brown, came to see him. And Richard Pryor was giving him all the story, and Jim Brown just kept going back to, what you gonna do? Well, you don't understand, all this is going on. What you gonna do? Well, I'm only doing this because, what you gonna do? He didn't want to hear anything else. He didn't want to hear about the story. What you gonna do? And that's what we have to ask ourselves as we're wrestling with life sometimes.
What you gonna do? That was a quote I got from Mary Tumpkin as well. Was what you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, that gets you out of your complaining. That gets you out of your judgment, your judgy thoughts.
Yeah. I forgot that Reverend Tumpkin used to say that. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You know, her body language was so strong with it. What you gonna do? You know, but it's a necessary question because, you know, you don't get to complain. You know, I was actually just recording for my podcast earlier today, Truth Transforms with Reverend Gaylon McDowell. Again, mindbodyspirit.fm, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all the places you get podcasts. I'm doing something I'm calling 2 leadership quotes you can live by. So I just did the part 2 today. And one of them, and I don't have the quote in front of me, so I don't want to improperly say this is the exact quote. And I don't even remember who wrote it, but it was, you don't get to complain about what you tolerate. And I just did some explanation around what that meant. You don't get to complain about what you tolerate. All right. So, you know, and tolerate does not always just mean, what I was teaching was in the context of leadership. But tolerate can not only mean what other people do, but it also means what you tolerate from yourself.
Right.
You know, so, you know, if you tolerate, when you get on the scale, that's saying something that you don't like, and you're not doing anything to change it, you're tolerating it. You don't claim about, every time I get out of bed now, when I'm getting off the couch, you know, et cetera. What are you doing? What you gonna do? You know, not having the energy that you want. What are you gonna do to change things? You know, one of the things that, you know, I'm mindful of, people will see me in the office consistently. They come in here, I'm eating a banana, I'm eating an apple, I'm eating some tangerines, first thing when I get up in the morning, I drink, with, those organic powders with the green stuff, that the probiotics, all the fruits and vegetables, all grinded down in the powder, put it in the water, glass of that. First thing before I drink anything else. Why? Because I want to be mindful of energy and digestive health as, bodies change. As I'm not going to sit up there and say I feel as physically strong as I did 25 years ago. Now, am I mentally stronger? Maybe, yes, but I have to do what I need to do to maintain myself versus just complain. So when I show up at places and folks will say, "Well, you look younger than you are." Well, I'm mindful of how I take care of myself. I guess my only vice is pizza. I love pizza and milkshakes. So but I'm so vain about how I look and that I can't allow it to get out of hand because I believe in maximum handsomeness. So I'm like, if it affects me being handsome, I'm probably going to stop or slow it down. Like, okay, I love pizza. I was eating pizza yesterday, good old Giordano's, but I just have to be mindful of it. You can't eat Giordano's every day, man.
I'm so glad that Giordano's is not all over the place here in LA. Blessing. It's a blessing.
But what you gonna do?
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I always tell my daughter. She's great with this now, but it took some time for her to get there. I would always say, Angel, you have to develop your hustle muscle. I've been telling her that for years. So now she has, a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs because she developed a hustle muscle. Okay, you want certain things. Now, what are you going to do to make that happen?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a part of the process. What you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the time to ask that question. Like it's always the time. But I listen, we are part of a collective, right? And I'm not just talking about the CUT collective, but just collective consciousness. And end of year, there's a wave of transition. There's a wave of change. It's like the time we give ourselves permission to begin to dream a new dream.
Right.
And so I want to, and I say roll with it. Like if this is dream a new dream time, it's like Thanksgiving. I don't care the origins of the holiday, but if this is the time we give thanks for things, I'm with it. I love gratitude, right? Mm-hmm. This is the chance I get to come together in love. And so here is the time. What are you going to do? What is it that you want? Cheryl, no, I'm not putting you on the spot. You put yourself on the spot, be it in the chat. But Cheryl said, she wants a transformation in her body. And her eating habits are right now needing to be put in alignment with the new body. What you going to do? What's that first thing that you're going to do? You asked a few questions in the sermon. I didn't pull. I pulled a few of them up. Let me see. So a couple little questions, just something to get you started, right? So the first thing is, what do you really want to see get done? Right? That this is a clarity question. All of these are clarity questions. What do you want to see get done? And then what do you want to see get changed? Like, what is it that you want to change? And so some of not moving forward, I think, comes from not being clear about exactly what you want to change.
Mm-hmm.
We can be really like, I can tell you all the things I don't like about something, but can I tell you as clearly with as much detail and feeling about really what I would prefer things to look like?
Right. Yeah, I'm a big believer on that. What do you see? Again, it's your must, not your shoulds. And I think, if you go back and listen to the sermon, I gave some real good context about change, because change isn't necessarily just your life, but you might want to see somebody else somebody else in a better situation, mm-hmm. or maybe not have to go through what you went through.
Right.
So it's important for you to realize that if you want it to be changed, you have to be the change you want to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And people will listen to you, right, when they see proof of your growth, when they see the fruit of your sacrifice. I didn't pull the clip that you talked about where you talked about sacrifice. You all have to go back and catch this one, the full version. But sacrifice is a part of it. You got to give something up for what you're opening yourself up to.
Yes. There's no such thing in life as something for nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we have to be mindful of, you're going to give time, you're going to give energy, you're going to give skill, you're going to give attention, you're going to give commitment, and you're going to have to give up something.
Yeah. Yep.
To get what it is you say you desire. Mm-hmm. And and the moment, even in ministry, I have a running joke with myself. Ministry, can be very consuming as far as time and energy is concerned. And then I look at our friend, Reverend Mark Hicks, who has the Truth and Unity website. And every time I see the work he does, I was like, I'm not working on that. Because I'm amazed at his output of what he's been able to do with that website and the material he's been putting out and the preservation of our teaching.
Absolutely.
And then created a study Bible with Fillmore notes and and all that type of stuff. Fillmore Study Bible, New Testament, and I was like, you know what? Am I complaining? Like, and then people, so you have to just be mindful. And I've never told him this. I might call him and tell him, but I like literally I'll look at him like, Mark's probably working right now.
No, but to me, that's not a bad thing, right? To know, it's like if you're mad that he working, that's one thing. But if it's like, so I know that somebody who has high output, is actively engaged in their project, right? They're
Yeah.
actively engaged in it. So what did I do today? Like my new questions are like, you know, I got some specific questions I'm asking myself. Cheryl said not to eat junk food, but I'll say like, what is it about junk food that, like, why am I snacking on things like this? I had to get to the why of it. And outside of it, oh, I like a crunch. Well, then I replace the crunch with sugar snap peas. So I'm going to offer that out to the crowd that sugar snap peas got that right crunch. If you're a potato chip person, sugar snap peas. But bigger than that, it's like, well, what feeling are you trying to crowd out with a crunch? Right? Like what thought are you trying to crowd out so that you don't perceive it? Get comfortable with being quiet and hearing yourself and perceiving like what are the thoughts going on in your mind. These are things I had to deal with. I didn't want to deal with this, but I definitely wanted my must. I wanted to be in a body that felt good. I wanted to be in a body that looked good. I wanted to feel good about myself and how I wanted to move. I wanted to get up and down off of couches without groans and grunts. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's some I want to travel unassisted, right? I look at my people traveling and they're needing wheelchairs and different levels of assistance. I didn't want that. So I'm practicing myself into greater health for as long as I'm in this body.
Yeah, and I think you have to have commitments to what you want.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that a commitment I made many years ago was I never pay for anything on a credit card that I can't pay off before the next month's payment. Mm-hmm. That's just for me a financial responsibility because I grew up sometimes when my mom saw it, she wanted it, she got it, and sometimes that's good and not good, so we would go to the mall, and you seeing things being paid with plastic consistently. Not knocking her. My mom was the most wonderful soul. I wish you had an opportunity to meet her. But by observation, you learn habits.
Yeah.
So I had to say to myself, okay, if I use it, and I'm only going to have certain ones, so I go to stores or stop in a Sears or whatever, or Target. Hey, do you want a Target card? No. You want to see us? No. I got what I need. So if an emergency happens, I can address it. For me, that's primarily the issue, unless it's some knick-knack thing that I just don't want to use my debit card for, like travel, So the issue comes into play is that's a commitment that I had to make. Okay. So then, when I got remarried, I had to let my wife like, I don't spend money on my credit card unless I can pay it off before the next payment, not at the due date. Mm-hmm. Before, because here's what I'm present to about myself. I don't like to feel like I don't have money. Yeah. I just don't.
Yeah, that's a good thing not to want. Still in the
house. But again, it's depending on what you want to be committed to. So I don't know what the different people are committed to. Sometimes your commitment carries you when you don't feel like it. Absolutely. Yesterday, I was getting back into my Kung Fu training and I was doing this stuff with this Wing Chun dummy, which is like a big piece of wood with these sticks coming out. And I'm hitting this thing and forearms are hurting. And I was there fully on commitment because I got to get my skills back up because they're not where they used to be. And I allowed those skills to erode. And the only way they can get there is if I would have stayed where I was, then doing those type of things wouldn't hurt. But because no different than getting back, lifting weights or getting back on the treadmill or anything else, it hurts sometimes when you start back again, when you let yourself fall off. Instead of beating myself up, you know what I said to him, my teacher last night? I'll be back tomorrow. So when I get off this, I'm going to train.
Yeah.
Because if I was like, oh man, that was my arms are really sore after that, then I just won't go.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening? Now I'm back to one again versus step by step, bit by bit, build it back up to whatever version of what that looks like now versus the version that looked like 20 years ago. I don't need to compete with that guy.
Mm-mm. No, and the reality is that anything you do new, you've been committed to something. That commitment has been to not working out. That commitment has been to eating whatever you feel like eating. And when you do one day of the new you, you're trying to make something else a new commitment.
Yeah.
That other stuff is like, hey, it's going to have your attention. You've been feeding and fueling it. So that's why your feelings. I love that you said, I didn't feel like going there, but I made a commitment. So I want to encourage you all as we're moving through this season right now, moving into our release space, is just to begin. I know that for me, sometimes thinking about what it is that I do want, what do I want to experience that's different, helps me before my burning bowl, because then it's like, well, if I want this, then I have to let go of this. For other people, it is obvious what it is you need to let go of. It is not a mystery. It is not something you got to go dig deep to. You know exactly what it is. You know that it is some things that make you anxious. It's whatever those things are, around relationships, around health and well-being, around your finances. Reverend Gaylon gave a very good practice for helping to, if not stop creating new debt, right? I know that for me, it's a practice now. Because he talked about his mama buying things on credit. I was that mama. I was the one. And it's like Christmas time, there was no conceivable idea that I was not going to buy my kid what I wanted to buy him, no matter how much money I had. But I did have credit, and I did have a Target credit card. And I would go and I would buy those gifts, and I would be dealing with that debt for the next few months after that. Thank God I've made new decisions, new commitments to my prosperity. And so I don't spend like that anymore. And I release the debt that I had accumulated at that point. It is important that you decide what it is that you want and begin to work with it. Work with it in this time. And you don't have to work with it all day, every day. Right? Yeah. Carve out a amount of time that feels like enough, and then do a little bit more than that. Right? So if like I can do 15 minutes, okay, so just say I'm going to do 30. Right, I'm willing to stretch myself in the process of getting clear about what it is that I want. Get out your journal. Rev gave some great questions. I think I only wrote down a couple of them for you. But what do you really want to see get done? What do you really want to see get changed? Like, what do you want those changes to be? These are great journal prompts. And begin to unwrap your gift of commitment.
That's the process. So as long as you're willing to do it, and do it well, we do have something, and this is not really for the online. You'll probably be able to see it later, but we're going to do the day after Burning Bowl in person, because I wanted to be able to have more of a touchy-feely experience with a post Burning Bowl seminar titled, what did I call it? The Faith to Succeed. Well, I, along with the Reverend Valerie McGee and our COO, attorney Gavin Jackson, will be teaching faith. I'll be teaching about what faith is, how it works. Reverend McGee will be teaching about, how to use faith for your desires. He'll be talking about more faith in the business world. And all of those things are necessary. So that's on Saturday, January 4th from 12 to 2. We're going to record it, and I'm sure we'll be able to do something with it, where people can see it later. But why in a smaller place unrecorded? Because sometimes when you're doing stuff in person, it's difficult to do it in a 3,000 seat a seminar. Reverend Sheree and I did that last January. It didn't have the same feel. Sometimes you want that process to be what it needs to be. So if you're local, come check it out. And if you're not local, be on the wait for it. So when we do get the recording and whatever, we'll put clips out, and we'll eventually, I'm sure, put the whole thing out. Last thing that I do want to remind people of, Rev Sheree, before we get off, two things. One, Reverend Wells is starting a new series titled Ignite Your Faith in January. So the month of January, he's going to be talking about, all of us have faith. We don't have to go anywhere to get it. But how do you ignite it? So he's coming in fresh and hot off of having a month off of preaching, to be able to come in and generate with Burning Bowl, and then that first Sunday in January, starting a new series titled Ignite Your Faith. So you definitely want to be ready for that, okay? Because we're going to talk about how to have explosive faith, all right? And if you want explosive faith, you want to make sure that you're in tune with that series. We got the JCI coming up, Johnny Coleman Institute classes coming up at the end of January. We'll start our registration probably in a couple of weeks for people to be able to sign up. All the classes will be online. My class will be in person. Reverend Wells wants to test the, some in-person stuff. So, I'm the leader of the JCI, so I'm going to do it. But everybody else, you'll be available for. I'm going to teach a class called "Get Your Money Right." I just made the title up, but it's about the Path to Wealth by Mae McCarthy. About how to make the. I'm sure you remember with the make God your chief spiritual officer, and I'm also going to do the I forgot the name of the book now. It's more of a nuts and bolts book about money. So you all will do the nuts and bolts stuff, and I'm gonna teach the metaphysics, and then it can come together for us to be able to do the things we got to do. But other people, lessons in truth and prosperity and healing and other stuff, that prayer, whatever you need, we'll have available for you in the Johnny Coleman Institute. So look forward to things coming down the pike that can help you get the life that you desire. And I will say, all of those things are waiting for your yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Us offering it and your yes are two totally different things until you match your yes with what we are presenting as a ministry to support you in living your better life. We're committed. I often tell people I love you not because I know all of you, but because I know what's in you. And because I know what's in you, we are consistently presenting material, sermons, seminars, classes, workshops, sermon rewinds, daily inspiration lessons, whatever it is, to help you remember who you are. And if you can make the commitment to just a few times a day, remind yourself of who you are and have a commitment to that, you will allow it to build. You can look back at this time next year and say, wow, I can't believe I accomplished so much and I changed and transformed so much in 1 year. Your capacity is unlimited, but it works if you work it.
Yes. No, thank you for that. There is really no more to be said. There's so much. Just keep tuning in, but this is what I promise you, because the collective is in a space of just amazing growth. That we will, while we may not have rewinds for the next few weeks, that there will be content posted in the Facebook group. So I want to encourage you to go ahead and join the Facebook group if you haven't already, because we've been laying some amazing groundwork for you. And there's some special opportunities that really will only be available. And I'm speaking specifically to the online community. So anybody can be a part of the online community, right? Everybody can't walk through the doors of the sanctuary every week, but you can be a part of the online community. So I want you to know that we are considering you. And what I'm going to put in there, that I'm closing on this, what I'm going to put into the group are a few wait lists. That there are some ideas I've been working on with the senior minister, with Reverend Gaylon, with Gavin, and that some opportunities for really for some small groups to really move fast around some specific ideas. And so I'm going to throw those in the group so we can get some wait lists going to see who's interested, and we'll begin to explore that. So the all-in commitment, we're here for you. We're committed to your greatness. And these are some opportunities and ways for you to engage. And sometimes I'll be honest, I just show up. Sometimes when I'm trying to build new commitments, I'm showing up. I'm not all the way at yes yet, but I immerse myself in the surroundings, and I began to build a momentum where I create my yes from there. So if you're not all in, ready to say yes, dive into, he named a myriad of them. There's some new ones coming. Dive in and give yourself the right mindset for yes, so that you can begin to elevate yourself to that yes. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning in, Cheryl and Deborah. I see some people commenting in the chat. Alita, loving you all. We'll be back very soon. I'll say that. We'll be back.
God bless you all.
Have a beautiful day.